Well, what is going on, everybody? It is Mr. Banks here coming at you live. I want to do a nice little levels video for you. This might take a little bit of time, so bear with me. I want to make sure I run through everything with you guys so you guys can understand how to find these levels, how to find support and resistances, and, make plays based off these levels because levels are important, right? A stock respects all levels. So I guess the first thing I want to do, we're going to be going over SPY and finding levels. So the first thing I want to do is say, make sure that you zoom out first, right? You always want to take a look at the bigger picture. So taking a look at the bigger picture, I'm starting on the monthly. And I'm going to start very basic, and then I'll move to EMAs. So the first thing I just want to show you is that stocks love to break out and retest that breakout, right? So breakout, retest. What do I mean by that? If you want to take a look here, we can see that SPY, right? This was a breakout moment for SPY. Check this out. Big breakout moment for SPY. And what did it do? It came down and respected that level, right? Exactly respected that level. I'll draw a line for you guys. You guys can do this as well. But take a look here, right? Breakout, retest, breakout, retest. So this is one thing that you need to it'll become a subconscious thing at some point, but you'll just know that stocks will always break out and retest the breakout. And they're very big levels that they bounce off, right? These are going to be like your biggest major levels that they bounce off, support and resistance. So now that we got that, we could also take a look down here. Let's go down. Let's go down to the weekly, or we could kind of take a look right here as another example. So we had this. This is a little bit different example because we bounced off. Well, I guess we bounced off here as well, but take a look at this. So now take a look at this, right? This was the drop down and then the breakout area, right? Of the big resistance. And then look what happened. We broke out, retested it, right? Breakout, retest, had a nice bounce. But if you guys could take a look, this is what happens consistently over and over and over again in stocks. They will always break out and they will always retest, right? It's the very basic idea to find support, big support and resistance levels is find where the breakouts are and find where the retests are. So now let's take a look. I'm going to go down to the weekly, zoom out a little bit. So on the weekly, you can kind of see this, you can see this a lot better. A lot of people are screaming 350, 350, 350. Now, why is everybody screaming or wanting 350 on SPY? Well, if you take a look at the smaller time frames after the monthly, we go to the weekly, we could see that the true breakout was around 350, right? The true breakout, it was a heavy resistance area. So the true breakout was around 350. So this is why everybody wants this area. Again, this was another little breakout area, especially on the monthly, as we can see, right? But on the weekly, you could start to see why everybody wants the 350 level area, because that would appear to be the true bottom of this breakout and completing the breakout and the retest, right? The breakout and the retest, right? You could see a little bit more clear. It was the resistance. We finally broke out. So we didn't quite get there yet. And that's why everybody wants 350. Cool. So from here, let's take a look. This is a trend line. We can get to that later. But here, let's take a look at, let me just delete this real quick. Let's go take a look at how else you can find levels, right? Let's go down to these lower areas. Let's maybe go down the daily. You can see, let's just go to the 30-minute. Now, a 30-minute is what I love to use in the mornings to find major levels, right? I'm just going to get rid of this trend line. So in pre-market, we could see our pre-market highs and lows. These are also going to be major levels to be looking at throughout the day, right? As you can see, we have the lower pre-market. And then we have the higher pre-market. Or previous day, I'm sorry. Previous day and then pre-market. So let's take a look right here. Do you see how these are major levels, right? So moving on from the breakout retest, we will have, retests and rejections, right? Retests and rejections or bounces or retests and bounces. So in this case, this was a major rejection, right? It was 402, big area we've had before, but we could not get above. So now moving forward to the next day, we know if we stay in the zone, we know that this is going to be a big area for us to get over. It tested it and we had a beautiful rejection off of it. And we now know this was a little bit of supply zone, right? A little bit of resistance. And now we held though, right? We held 399, 400, right? 400 was a very big level. It's been a very big level for a while. We held it, right? So since we bounced, we would be looking for that rejection, right? So this is how I drew my line. Super simple. Another thing that you could have done is pre-market. You could go to the pre-market as well. So you can see the bodies match, but we could see that this was also another level, right? All right, so 402, pretty much the same area, but 402 level was the area to be watching. So another way to find support and resistances is to find where we had major rejections, which would be a resistance, or major bounces. That would be a support, right? So major rejection here became a nice area to look to break or to go retest. And then a bounce is another area, right? So a rejection area would be a resistance area. A bounce area would be a support area, right? Because if we're bouncing off of it, it has to be a support, right? It's supporting it. It's supporting it up. It's showing that it's a strong level. When we reject, we're resisting, right? We're resisting and breaking out. So we're rejecting. So support, resistance is how that works. Now, let's step back a little bit and go back to the bigger time frames. So we went over all stocks breakout and retests, right? Breakout and retests. We also saw that to find support and resistance levels, we need to see where we had major rejections as far as intraday rejections and bounces to find our levels, right? Rejections and bounces will find our levels. Okay, let's go back to the monthly and let's talk about the EMAs for a second, right? Exponential moving averages. Now, why do we use the exponential moving averages? Well, they add more weight to the data that's applied to the current price, right? So SMAs are the simple moving average. Those actually lack in keeping up with the current price movements than the EMA does. So the EMA is actually, the exponential moving average is actually a better tool to use, indicator to use over the SMA, especially if you're day trading. So now your next question to ask, what EMAs would I want to put on my screen? Well, some EMAs you would need to put on your screen or should have to look for levels is the 5 EMA, the 10 EMA, the 20, the 50, the 100, and the 200. I know you could see 1348 on my screen right now. I kind of use that more so as a cross. If you know about MACD, kind of like that, we cross up, cross down, shows the momentum of where the stock is going. So I'll kind of leave those out for now. But as far as finding pretty big levels, I would definitely have my 5, my 10, my 20, my 50, 100, and 200 EMAs plotted on my screen. So now you ask, how would I use these? Well, how do moving averages work? Well, moving averages are like magnets, right? They're the average. So they're everything is always going to want to go back to its average, right? It's the mean. It has to. It's the middle ground. Everything needs to go back to the average. So now that we know that MAs, moving averages, are like magnets, we know that if a stock breaks, so let's go, for example, a stock breaks above an EMA. Or for this example, let's go, a stock bounces off of an EMA, right? So we know that that was a strong level, right? For example, this was the 48. So we know that the 48 was a strong level. It was also near the 50, right? The 50 EMA. So just like we saw support levels or bounces, these can also be used as support levels. And on the flip side, they can also be used as rejection levels, right? As rejection levels. So now let's take a look. The 5 EMA was at 409.75, right? 409.75. We saw that's where we got to, and we had a nice little rejection on it. You know, we pulled back, we're at 408. But look at where it hit, right? 409.75, right off that 5 EMA on the monthly. Right? So once we knew that we had a strong bounce here and all of these MAs are up here, that's a very strong magnet showing that we're going to go touch those areas, right? The stock wants to go back to its average. It's going to go hit those moving averages, especially since we got that bounce. So that's a little bit how moving averages work. And it's also the same in resistance areas, right? So let's go down to the daily really quick. So once you break through a moving average, right? Once you break through, more than likely it is going to go reach and hit the next moving average that is above it. And this is a great example right here. We could see once we passed all these MAs, we went and touched, I believe this is the 48 EMA exactly, right? Once we broke the 48 as well as the 50 and the 5, we went to go touch the 100. Now, the higher time moving averages, like the 50, 100, and 200, are going to hold the most weight as far as the strongest supports and the strongest resistances. So I'll say that one more time. The higher EMA, so the 50-day, the 100, and 200, the higher you go, the stronger moving average it is. It should have a bigger move off of that average, right? So if we're starting to pass all of these lower time frame, lower timed moving averages, once you break through, we're going to go hit those top ones because those are the major ones, right? Right? We talked about it's the average. We're going to go hit that big average. So now that we passed 100, it more than likely looks like we're going to go touch the 100, right? Or 200 right here. So more than likely we're going to go touch the 200, right? Right around 417, 418. So now that we got that, what else can I do with my EMAs? Well, another thing that you can do with your EMAs is start to plot them on the different time frames, right? So when you plot them on the different time frames, we're looking for, okay, how many EMAs match up, right? Is the 50 EMA also matching up? Is the 50 EMA on the monthly also, let's just say, matching up with the 5 EMA on the daily, right? That would show that that's going to be a strong level. It's going to be a strong level. There's multiple moving averages on the different time frames showing this one level. That's going to be a strong level to watch to know that that's probably where it's going to go, right? So let's start an example and let's start trying to find these levels and actually do what I just said. What we're going to do is look at the EMAs on the monthly. So we zoom out, right? We zoom out first, look at the big picture. So what do we have for our EMAs on the monthly? Well, the closest ones that we have right now would be the 5, which was 409.75, which we hit, right? That was the magnet that we went to today. We have the 10, which is 418.39. So we'll write that down. The 10 EMA is 418. And then we have the 20 at 48.73. So the 20 is at 48.73. So let's keep those levels in mind. Now we do have these other levels, right? So we do have these other levels, but these are pretty far. These are pretty far down here. We don't need to worry about these what's right now. Let's worry about the ones that are closest because those are the ones that we're going to play, right? Those are the ones that it's going to respect the first. So now it's looking at the weekly. We have our levels, right? We said 409 was the 5, 408.73 was the 20, and then we had 418 for the 10. Now let's see if there's anything that kind of matches or is in the same area. Now we don't need to worry so much about the decimals. Like if it's like 409.75, we have to find 409.75. No, we need to find, something that's very close to that line, to that EMA. So now we went down to the weekly, shorter time frame, smaller time frame. 409, 408, 418. Those are the levels we got. The 5, 10, and the 20 EMA. What do we see here? Well, I can tell you right now, right off the bat, the 50, right? The 50 is at 417.77. It's at 417.77. So that's pretty close to the 10, right? Pretty close to the 10 EMA that was on the daily. So now I'm going to star this and I'm going to say, okay, 418, 417 level. I need to watch this level. This looks like the next breakout, right? So right now we're at 408. So the next breakout that we're seeing so far would essentially be 417, 418 area. Since we just hit 409, the 417, 418 area is now our next biggest level we will be watching. What else do we have? We have the 48, which is on 417 as well. So big levels to watch. We also have the 20, which is at 406. So the 20 on the weekly is near the 20 on the monthly. So 406, 408, I would now write down as that's a level, right? Things are matching up. These seem to be big levels. So now 406, 408 is a level I'd be watching. Since we saw that it is a 20 on both the monthly and the weekly, very close together. And then we also have 417, 418, right? We had the 10 at 418 on the monthly, and we have the 10, or sorry, not the 10. We have the 50 on the weekly at 417. So 417, 418 are now my levels to watch, right? And we can see that right here, right? So this would be now the next, if we break through here, right? We break through this 20, which we did, we're at 408, and we hold. I would then look for this 417, 418 area. Now, let's go down another time frame, right? Let's go down a shorter time frame to the daily. So another thing about EMAs is that if you have a smaller or a shorter time frame EMA across a higher time frame EMA, that is good. You want that. So like if a 5 crosses the 20, that is very bullish. And likewise, if the 5 were to cross down, it'd be bearish, right? We want our smaller time frames to catch up with our bigger ones because the bigger time frames are the biggest levels. Let me change this color real quick. All right, cool. So we have the 200. Oh, what do you know? So 200, the 200 EMA on the daily is at 417 as well. So now we have the 200, which we know is a massive, right? We want to look for the 200. That's the biggest, area that we're looking for resistances or support. So now we have 417 as the 200 EMA on the daily. We had 417 as the 50 EMA on the weekly. And then we had 418 as the 10 EMA on the monthly. So now this keeps adding up to being a very big level, right? 417, 418 is a very big level to watch. And how did we do that? We looked at the different time frames and went down from biggest to smaller to see if anything was adding up, right? And we saw that these EMAs were adding up around 417, 418. And I could see also that the 100 on the daily is 407. Now, what was 408? It was the 20 EMA on the monthly. And then 406 was the 20 EMA on the weekly. And now we see that 407 is the 100 EMA on the daily. So what does that mean? 406, 408 is even more conviction that that is another major level to watch. Right? So 406, 408, we had it on 3 different time frames, a couple points away from each other. And then we also had 417, 418 on 3 time frames, be 1 point away from each other. So now this is how you can find these major levels and where these things are going to go, right? When we look at the bigger time frame, we're not worried about the intraday fluff, right? We know that these EMAs are magnets, and we know that they're going to want to go touch them. They're magnet whores. They love to go touch EMAs. They love them. They're going to do it. At some point, whenever they're going to go do it. And if they're crossing up and breaking the different ones, they're going to go touch the next one and then the next one. If it fails, it'll come back down and it should retest and bounce off of the previous level, right? Now we could take a look at the 4-hour. We could keep going down, right? We can keep going down. What else do we have? Well, on the 4-hour, now we're starting to get a little overextended, right? We're past all of our EMAs, right? All of our EMAs have crossed. Candlesticks are all crossed. And now we are above every single EMA on the 4-hour. So what does that tell me? Well, if by the 4-hour, we're already reaching past these EMAs, which we know are magnets, then that means it looks like we're definitely getting a little overextended. And it looks like 417, 418. If we get there, we should definitely see a nice rejection and pullback from it, right? There's no EMAs this is going to anymore on the 4-hour. And the 4-hour is definitely a larger time frame, and we have no EMAs. It's already crossed them all. So where is it going to go to? It has to come back to them, right? It has to come back to the EMAs, to the moving averages. It has to. There's just nowhere else where it can go. But we know that 417, 418 is a big level. Now let's take a look here at the 4-hour. We have a major supply zone, right? Major supply zone. So this is a heavy liquidation zone that you could see. It's what they use to liquidate. These are imbalances here, which we are filling, right? Slowly but surely, when we have we can get that to another video, supply and imbalances, but just know that this was a major supply zone. We could see we have a lot of consolidation, a lot of fight between the bears and the bulls. Eventually the bears won. But now we need to go retest it, right? So we know there's a lot of bags up here. There's a lot of liquidation up here that still needs to be, liquidated. So we're going back up to this liquidation supply zone. And what do you know? As soon as we hit it, guess what happened? We had a nice little pullback, right? We had a nice little pullback. So guys, I hope this is starting to make sense. All of these things paint the picture. You have to look at all these different variables to paint the one big picture, right? You can't just draw a line on a canvas and say, oh, look at my painting. No, you need to add different colors. There's different strokes. There's thick lines, thin lines. There's all these different things that add up to the bigger picture. So we need to take a step back and look at the bigger time frames and go down and see what's going on, right? What's going on in the big frame. And then we can go start down and get to the nitty gritty and the more detailed for our intraday trades. So as we can see here, once we got to the 4-hour, we're above our EMAs again. We need to come back. We're starting to get a little overextended. We're going to need to come back and touch those EMAs because they're magnets. We also have that confirmation in this big supply zone. Now, this doesn't mean that this zone we can't reject and then come back and base here and then, break it. Absolutely, that's possible. We have this trend right here. This rising wedge that we broke out of, we could easily go retest this if we stay bullish and then break through the supply zone. But for now, the supply zone matched with the 417, 418 area, right? So here's 418 at the very top, right? 418 at the very top. What do you know? This matches perfectly, guys. This matches perfectly. And I believe the 10 EMA on the monthly was 418.39. What do we have here? Pretty much 418.39, huh? Kind of weird, but not. So this is how you find your major levels, your major support, your major resistant levels. This is how you use your EMAs to find levels, right? I just showed you from the monthly going down. I found two major levels to watch. We had 417, 418 area, but we also have the 406. I guess I should say 406, 408 as a slight bounce area. I probably look at 406 first. We also have 409. So 406, 409 area is also a nice area to look at, right? We got that from looking at the different EMAs on the time frames. So I hope this helped. We can get into different things in other videos. I'm going to end this here though. If you have any questions, just let me know. Hope to keep making videos for you guys. I hope this really helped break down how to find the levels, how to use the EMAs to find levels, and, you know, find your big support and resistance areas. When you break it down like this, it makes the bigger picture look so much easier, right? Makes it look so much better. You can sit there in a trade and be like, okay, well, it broke these levels. We're very bullish, good volume on the day. All right, we're going to go hit 417, 418. I already know it, right? It's a very big level. So hope this helps. Try to make more videos. I'll see you guys next time. Mr. Binks out.